Happy Father's Day yesterday. In this video, we're going to honor all the fathers and men in our life by reading a father's interest story. So this is a story time video. So how many of you men, or maybe if you're a lady, how many of the men in your life love to fish? So this story is called The Lure of Fishing. I will be posting and even asking some questions that maybe you can ask the men in your life or ask yourself and help you reminisce and share experiences of your life with those that you love. I hope that you share this story with your family and share your life experiences and life stories with those that you love. Don't hesitate to share your wisdom and your life experiences with your family. So I hope you enjoy it. The young boy whistled a familiar tune as he began to change the old fishing line. His grandfather and father whistled the same song every time they were getting their gear together for a day of fishing. The young boy was just around 9 years old with freshly washed hair that stuck up all over. He was happily cleaning out the old metal tackle box that had sat in the garage untouched all winter. Today was a bright and sunny and special day. The boy was heading out with his father to a super secret spot that had been his family's favorite fishing spot for many years. But it was a long hike and he had not been ready before. This year was different though. The young boy was finally old enough for the 2-mile hike into the woods. He was grinning as he thought about it. He appreciated how much time he and his father and grandfather spent in nature whenever they had a chance, but today was an extra exciting for him. His father entered the garage all smiles, thinking about the sweet smell of spring in the woods that they were about to hike into. He thought of the splendid silence of woods, the sweet scent of honeysuckle and jasmine reaching up and out from between brambles, the soothing sound of the river lapping against the shore, and the wind whispering with the refreshing breath of pine. It had been a few years since the boy's grandfather had been able to walk up the narrow path to the lake that sat deep within the forest. Today was the first time the father would take his young son to the spot he loved the most. He felt a little sad that his own father could not go, but he was excited to bring back some fish for supper. Do you have any fond memories of fishing with your dad or your grandfather? Did you ever have a secret spot or fishing hole that you would always go to? If so, what kind of fish did you catch? And did you ever cook up the fish after you catch it, or was it just catch and release? As the father started to unpack his own tackle box, he gave his son a tousle on the head. Grandpa is going to love eating whatever we catch today. He even left this new tackle box just for you to take today. He says it has a surprise and not to open it until we get up there. What do you think the surprise is? Maybe worm cookies? Maybe. Or maybe just some of Grandma's brownies with walnuts? Ooh, I hope it's brownies. Do you think the fish will be biting today? The young boy asked. Oh, of course. This is a very secret, special place your grandfather found. The fish are always biting there, like magic. Why don't we always go to this spot then? Asked his son. Well, you shouldn't use magic every day, or else it's not so special anymore, his dad laughed. In reality, it was just a challenging hike, and it took a long time to get in and out. But that didn't mean that few people fished there, so it was a good spot to go if you had the time and energy. The water was calm and shallow, with smooth rocks along the shore. It was perfect for wading out into the water and cooling off after the hike. When you stood in the water and stood very still, you could feel the small fish swish past your toes and watch the hawks overhead as they flew from one side of the trees that ringed the water to the other. The father dipped his hand into his old metal tackle box and smiled. There was a bright red lure, shiny with flashy red and golden feathers. They were his own father's signature lure colors. He let his mind wander as he remembered the first lure his father had ever made just for him, red and gold. That day his father had taken him to the secret fishing hole and helped him tie it to a line. There are many different types of fishing. What kind of fishing have you tried? Have you tried net fishing, deep sea fishing before? How about fly fishing? Have you ever tied your own lure? Or did you always use live bait like worms? Or did you hook some peanut butter or a type of food that you think the fish would eat up? Like his own son today, he recalled being most worried about whether the fish were biting. He wanted to catch a monster-sized fish and really impressed his dad. But before even helping him to cast his line, his father had taken a knee to have a chat with him. Fishing, especially up here, is not just about bringing home dinner. Although your ma always likes to have a fresh fish fry. But here's the truth, son. It's all about taking a moment to be silent and still, to really see nature. See how the trees move, how the water seems to breathe in and out as the waves roll up the shore. It's a good time to just be with yourself and the people you take with you. If we catch a fish, we'll be happy. But if we don't catch a fish, we'll also be happy. Okay? Today, as a young father and his bright-eyed son stood on the rocky shores of the mountain lake, the father breathed in deeply. The walk had been long, but his son had been filled with the energy only a 9-year-old can have. He had been at a near run for the entire 2-mile uphill hike into the woods. Do you think fish wish they had legs? Like maybe they would like to hike? I don't know. Do you wish you had fins? I can swim without fins, can I? It's so hot. The father laughed. Even though he knew it would disturb the fish and scare them off for at least a little while, he couldn't deny that it was very hot after that hike, and that taking a dip in the lake had always been his favorite part of the trip to this particular spot. Let's do it. Let's see if we can ask the fish if they want legs. Watching his son gleefully run into the water, splashing and splashing, he remembered what his own dad had always taught him, that fishing was more than just fishing. It was enjoying the moment with those you brought with you. The two counted the hawks that flew overhead. They chased frogs and skipped rocks. From across the lake, they watched a graceful doe and her two awkward, dappled fawns take long drinks from the water. It was truly a sight to behold. Eventually, after a swim, a snack, and a light nap in the sun, the pair were ready to regroup. It was barely noon, with plenty of time to do some fishing. How does being in nature make you feel? Do you enjoy seeing the wildlife that you might come across? Do you enjoy hearing the sounds of nature, such as the whistling of the wind or the smells of nature? Like the father in the story said, when you're in nature, do you really take the time to be silent and still, to really see nature, to enjoy the beauties and the creations around you? To continue the story, the father picked out the beautiful red and gold lure from his tackle box, setting up his son's rod and readying it. He thought about the first time he had ever cast a line. He had so nervously moved the rod slowly behind his head, double checking and then triple checking to make sure he had positioned it just right. He had caught his own father's patient and encouraging smile in the corner of his eye. With that silent encouragement, he had used all his strength to swing the reel forward and releasing the line at just the perfect moment. It had flown gracefully for a full 20 yards downstream, and he had silently screamed with joy. He had slowly wiggled and dragged that line back to him, trying to encourage a fish to bite, and lo and behold, came a tug on the line. But as he tried to pull the line slowly and carefully back to him, he realized as he tugged harder and harder that it wasn't a fish at the end of the line. The lure had just been snagged on a rock or something else hidden below the surface. He remembered crying and struggling, so upset that he had made such an error on this very first try. His father walked over to where the line had hit the snag. Taking his pocket knife out, he quickly severed the lure from the line. The boy started crying almost immediately. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I lost the lure you made me." His father had laughed. "We all lose lures. I lose them all the time. Why do you think I'm so good at making them? What's nice is that we are here and we are together. The sun is out. We have sandwiches and plenty of time to catch some more fish. Or, if you want, we can go ahead and dip our toes in the water and just take a swim ourselves. Maybe we'll even find where that lure went." Today, the young father missed his own father, although they still went on regular fishing trips together, relaxing on a dock or in the small boat his father had bought after his retirement. The older man could no longer make the trek to this special hidden lake. He sighed, thinking about how his young son would miss out on having his grandfather show him the tree that they could hang a rope swing from, or show him how to cast that perfect line. His son ran over to him, his tackle box bouncing wildly in his hand. "Dad, look! Look what Grandpa did for us!" Upon opening the little green tackle box and lifting up the green trays, the two found row after row of carefully made fly fishing lures. One entirely tray of the tackle box was simply red and gold lures, with freckled feathers just like the one that had been lost many years ago. There was a small note folded up amongst the lures. The note read, "Lose as many as you can. The fun is in finding them. Grandpa." What are other childhood memories or trips you have with your dad? What made those trips so special and enjoyable? Have you kept or do you have any small items from your past that you treasure? What made those items so special? I encourage you to get those treasures, those small items out and share those stories and what made that small item such a treasure of that memory with a loved one or your grandkids or a friend. Go back to that moment, go back to that memory and share it with someone new.